George and Seb rolling down the road. RGT riding shotgun, a heavy load. Pastor Longhorn waiting to unfold.
What's up, everyone? Do not adjust your dial. It is, do we call ourselves the B team? Do we call ourselves the C team? Are we the S squad? What are we?
We're the Z team, baby.
The Z team? I like it.
Yeah.
It is the Z team with yours truly, Seb, and joining me for this illustrious episode is Mr. Marathon Gaming himself, Scotty. Scotty, how you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well. It's been a long week. It's been a challenging week, but I'm very, very happy to be sitting in front of you, talking to you about gaming. I'm excited for what's going to come. It's going to be a great show, and I am buzzing for it. How the devil are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing really well. This episode's got me excited for a lot of reasons, because you over the last episode, I found out that you and I had a lot of video game similarities, and I was telling my wife this, and I was just like, I knew Scotty was a Switch man, so of course that put me on guard immediately, because I was like, who the hell who wants to play Switch in 2024? But then I was just like, well, I got to talk to this man, and over the discourse of our conversation throughout the episode, I was like, this guy likes all the same kind of games I do right now. I'm like, he's vibing on another level with me.
Yeah, we're gaming twins, but you shouldn't hate too much on the Switch. Where I live, literally, we only had electricity from 1990. We had internet from the year 2000. And the first console we got, a lot of people might have started on the Atari, on the NES, on the Commodore, on the Spectrum. But our first console we had was a Nintendo Switch. So we're just embracing it.
Yeah, I understand. If that's the first one you got, that's the national console at that point,
What I'm worried about is it might be the last one we get. That's the problem.
No. I feel like the Switch 2 would be right up y'all's alley whenever it comes out next year.
Oh, I'm excited for the Switch 2. A lot more excited than I am for the PlayStation 6 Pro, that's for sure.
The 6 Pro? Hopefully that's, at this rate, that'll be in the next decade or so. But, in typical UCP fashion, I do have to ask the question off the top that the coined phrase that George so elegantly puts it on every single episode. What have you been playing?
Modern wise, not a hell of a lot. So
Whoa.
I've been full on retro handheld this week. So I haven't actually done a lot of gaming. I've been very busy. I've been playing a lot of board games. So it might not be a topic for everyone on this show, but yeah, I've had a few board game days with family. I found some new games were really good. One was called Sheriff of Nottingham, real fun game.
Okay.
Lots of different board games we were playing. But in terms of actual video games, I've just been playing where my Game Gears, I mentioned on a previous show, my Game Gears are sent off for repair. And why my Game Gears are being repaired and / modded, so I was having I think it's called I can't remember what it's called. Basically, it takes the 6 or 8 AA batteries, but it's changing that so it's rechargeable on the USB port C, I think it is, the small USB.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the screen mod, all that sort of stuff, new cell case, even looking at a possible HDMI mod, so when I'm filming on YouTube, I can get the Game Gear on the big TV. So while that was happening, I was like, right, what am I going to play in bed? I need my little 10-minute downtime. And I thought, rather than play the Switch, what else can I play? Handheld retro. So I picked up my Game Boy Color, and it's a little Game Boy Color. It's a Game Boy Color Lite, not the Pocket. Is it called the Lite? I think it is. Slightly smaller screen, but a lot of nostalgia for Game Boy in general. But the actual OG Game Boy games, I was very young when I had the Game Boy. I just had what was given to me, Tetris like everybody had. But Game Boy Color, I've got a lot of nostalgia for it. But yeah, I was playing Pokemon Yellow a lot, and I mentioned it previously, but I've just been grinding at that. So 10 minutes each night, a little bit of Pokemon Yellow, Pikachu, working my way up through the badges. And since the last show, since this one, I have actually now received my Game Gears have returned back to me. So I've gone full on handheld crazy. I was collecting loose Game Gear games, going to retro game shops, retro gaming markets, collecting loose Game Gear games. So I wasn't a big fan of the boxes. It was cheaper. I was happy with that. However, Nintendo cardboard just seems to just draw me in somehow. It's literally like a fish hook in my mouth. with a little bit of cheese on the end from Longhorn's toenails. I just can't seem to escape it. And the Game Boy Color boxes, I actually love the cover art on it. When I see them, I've got one in the corner I can look at now. It gives me mad nostalgia vibes, and not a lot of people go too mad for the Game Boy Color. I mean, there's obviously a lot of expensive titles that there are on all systems, but there's a lot you can find pretty cheap, and it's amazing because how old these games are, 30 plus years old. It's amazing to find out, and when you come across these games and they're still in good condition, because obviously when I was a kid, I used to just rip the tops of the boxes off, so it absolutely blows my mind that they've been preserved in this way. So I'm actually starting to collect boxed Nintendo Game Boy Color games, which is the first you've heard it here as an exclusive from El Paso. So I'm going to put some, I was saying before we went on air, I've moved some things around in the games room. I'm going to put some new shelves up. I'm going to have them displayed front on. I'll probably do a new series for hunting and collecting them out in the wild. So I'm absolutely buzzing to get a bit more of a buzz and for collecting something new. It's really fun when you're collecting something and you get a bit of a lull and you don't know what to play or collect. And I've been playing a lot of modern the last few months since joining the UCP team, and I haven't been playing too much retro other than the Game Gear. So I'm really happy to have found a new love, and it's really ignited my spark. So yeah, no modern for me, just literally Game Boy Color games. Did you have a Game Boy Color? Any games pop into your head?
I did have a Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance back in the day.
Yeah.
I loved the Game Boy. It was my first portable console, and outside of, I think that and the PS1 are what really got me into gaming as a whole, because
Yes.
I'm a 90s kid, so like those were kind of like that stage and early like era of like Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy Color games are what really kind of like pushed me into that love of video games. Right alongside the PlayStation 1, I'm not a physical guy at all. Like, I'm not a physical collector. But allegedly my Steam Deck is packed full of Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games.
Oh wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, man, and it's like, I was really surprised that, like, I heard the Steam Deck was a good emulation device,
Yeah,
but
same. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
what surprised me about it is not how well it plays games. It's like how many games you can store on a SD card and just allegedly play. Like,
Oh, it's
I
mind blowing. They say that, don't they? Say you can fit a whole catalogue of like an early system from our childhood on one USB. It's mind blowing.
I'm baffled because like I was looking to see how many you could store. You can do the whole modern or the whole retro Game Boy and Game Boy Color collection on there, and it doesn't even take up like it doesn't even reach the gigs of the Switch. The gigs of the Switch come with like 16, I believe. It didn't even get to there. I'm like, I think it gets to like 1/4 of that, and then Nintendo 64 is like 1/4 of that as well. So I'm like, you can get all the major Nintendo like consoles up to the GameCube era and not even scratch a surface of a 1 terabyte SD card.
Oh, I believe you. I remember seeing a picture. It must have been on either Instagram or Retro Gaming magazine. And it was I believe it was a PC gamer or like a microcomputer. And he had all these, the big floppy disks before they went smaller. Yeah. In a stack of these floppy disks, right? Sorry, I know this isn't good for an audio show, but it was about, 3 foot high. Imagine it on a table, it would cover your body. There's literally 100 games there. And next to it was a USB. And he went, believe it or not, I've got all of these games on this one USB. So every single one fitted on there. So yeah, I believe that 100%. It's definitely true, for sure. But Seb, we need to address the elephant in the room, because last time we was on, we talked and you persuaded me. During that show, I purchased Undisputed. Since that show, I have become Undisputed, not once, not twice, but 3 times Undisputed champion, different divisions, featherweight, welterweight, heavyweight, and I've broke the back, the neck, the legs, the spine of that campaign career mode. I have made every customized character. I've been 8 foot tall. I've been 2'2". I've been loving that game, and I know it's got its flaws with the online games like you'll be standing back and you'll be getting punched, but you're not physically getting punched. Like, what's going on with the hitbox? I get the online server's broken. However, you're a man that loves single player experience. You're the OG single player experience guy. So you must appreciate this game, no pun intended, it's a heavyweight contender for Game of the Year 2024. I'm fighting everybody who says it's not. Look, listen, keep your Astrobot. This is what I'm talking about. It's undisputed. I love the game. I've done like 40 hours on it, Seb. I did 30 hours in 1 week. I've loved that game. It's everything I wanted. I love the career mode of it. I love the training mode you can do. I love the coaching. I love the management. I think the graphics are realistic. Obviously, got to think the last game I had was Fight Night Champion, and I've embraced it. I've really enjoyed it. And everyone keeps saying, you know, what's wrong with it, but I've been telling my close friends that, you know, I work with and stuff, and everyone's been really enjoying the game, the campaign mode, and just loving the career mode. So if you just enjoy it for what it is, as a boxing fan that appreciates that boxing have not had a boxing game in so long, stop being negative and looking at what's wrong with it. Just be thankful we've had a new game, and then we'll build up from that. Yeah, there could be more licensed fighters, but don't just play one division. I've knocked out probably 50 licensed professionals because I've gone through the different divisions, and I think the game's awesome. Like, yeah, if you go online and choose heavyweight, there's 12 heavyweights, but it's not. This isn't FIFA. This isn't COD. Get involved with a single player game. That's what it's all about. It's fantastic.
I like that. I like that. You know, with Undisputed, I came into it thinking like, because this is a relatively unknown studio, I first came onto the map with this game at PAX. I was walking into the convention center in Boston, I believe, and I looked over and I saw a huge championship belt that this guy was holding, and he was holding one. It had a green strap on it, and then another guy was holding one. It had a red strap on it. And I was like, "Oh, those are the boxing championships, and like championship belts." So I walked over there, and that's when I was first introduced to Undisputed, because they were actually demoing the game. This was about 2 years now, and ever since then, it's been all like on my radar. They gave me a PC code. I was, you know, kind of lukewarmly playing this off and on for about 2 years, and like you said, I think I looked at it in a different light of, this is more like an indie boxing game than actually like a boxing game made by 2K or by EA, which would have probably had a lot more licensed fighters. It would have probably had maybe a better hitbox. A lot of the online issues would have probably been addressed better, because they used to servers like that with like Madden and with, you know, like all the rest of the EA catalog games. But for what this is, I do think this is the best product that we've had in a long time. And it really, to me, I think this inspires me more so of like, this is a great stepping stone for what they can do in the future. Like, I think this is a good template for them to work off of and build. Because I think this is a good game. I think I would have probably given this like more of a 7 out of 10 than probably like Game of the Year contender. But I do think.
I don't think you can hate on the fact that that there's not too many licensed boxes, because it's not as straightforward as that.
No.
I feel like, so with boxing, like for example, if we compared like UFC with boxing, so UFC, you know, Dana White, the president, he would say, right, this is the purse, you know, it's split 60-40, 60% to, you know, whoever's ranked higher or whoever's holding the belt, there'll be a knockout bonus, blah, blah, blah. But in boxing, you haven't just got the manager, you don't have a particular governing body, you've got multiple governing bodies, you've got 4. And then you've also got the stable that you're fighting with. So you might have, you know, Matchroom. You know, you might have like Eddie Hearn.
Yeah.
So they will have their own package that they do. There's so many things that are done. They talk about fights for like years before they happen. And then even the purses, they're so mixed up. And it's quite realistic, even in the game. You could be fighting someone, and you might, and because you want the shot of fighting someone, you know, a lot better than you, it's a risk to the fighter who's got like
A higher
you know,
prestige.
no losses.
Mhm.
So it's a risk to him. You're a young upcoming. So they're offering you 10% purse, which is terrible. But that's the truth. That's what's happened. And that's why you see fighters come out of nowhere. Like we talked before about Golovkin. No one heard of Golovkin until we had 30 fights because everyone avoided and ducked him.
Mhm.
And that's when you look at different careers, like with Frank Warren's stable, for example. Like look at Anthony Joshua's career of how easy his first 20 fights was, and then look at Daniel Dubois' career of how hard his first 20 fights were. And that just shows you the power of TV, sponsorship, media, negotiations, and who's got the control in the box industry. There is a little bit of corruption there. So it's not the case. It's not the case of, you know, like football, you could just go to Man City, right, we want to put your players in the game, here's this, and they do a quick deal. There's so many variables. It's like they're owned by so many people, these boxers. It's not just a straightforward thing. So I was actually quite surprised by some of the fighters. That's why it's so easy. But there's a lot of retired boxers in it because that's easy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
They haven't got different people. So non-active fighters are in there. There were some fighters in there I forgot about. Like even in the featherweight, you got like Cole Frabs and Scott Quigg. Don't get me wrong. I used to watch those guys fight 5, 6, 7 years ago. But they're not active anymore. But that's why they're in the game because they don't have to negotiate. It's like me going to you, hey Seb, I want to put you in a video game. Here's 250,000. You'll go, do you know what? No worries. So yeah, anyone who's doing well and is active, you'll be surprised to see him in the game. So the fact that we even had Canelo Alvarez in there was kind of exciting for me to go up against him, you know, in a boxing game because they must have broke their backs to get that deal. But it's really cool, like the licensing of the arenas. There's certain bodies that have obviously said, you know, put me in the game. The fact when you get the undisputed title, it gets presented by that seat, doesn't it, from in Saudi. So obviously it's got his logo, his branding. I think it's really cool. I really Riyadh season, that's what it's called, isn't it? Riyadh season.
Yeah.
The promotion. But yeah, honestly, mate, I'm loving it, and I know that people, it's not been as good expectation for everyone, but my expectation wasn't just low; it was removed from the room and situation because I've not had a game for so long, and like you call it an indie game, which it is. However, I've tried many indie boxing games.
They don't get like this, no.
Yeah, especially to have the Switch. And I paid, you know, £30 for some of these games, like a lot of money. Like there was, I don't know what it's called, realistic boxing or real boxing. There was 1 and 2, and they're dreadful. And I'll be very honest and say they're bad, but this game is a really, really good game. So I'll do everything I can to elevate them and show the world that this is the real deal.
I love the enthusiasm. I think, you know, I said 7 out of 10. I think that's good. I don't think it's like bad.
7 out of 10 is a good score, and that is the same score that George gave Star Wars, and he enjoyed that game, so I can't complain.
Yeah. I actually think this might be better than Star Wars Outlaws, but you know, it's one of the.
Anyone's editing this part, so I know we don't do a lot of editing, but please click that, and then we'll use that. We'll keep sending it to George every day.
It is interesting though. I do think like boxing is a dirty sport organizational wise because there's so many different organizations and hurdles that you do have to make fights happen. Whereas your comparison with the UFC is apropos there of like the UFC is just one organization and Dana White is at the head of that organization. And then, you know, like he has a committee of people that he might like, he had like his cabinet members, so to speak, like a presidential party. But like for the most part, they always make the best fights that are available happen. You know, there's not a whole lot of ducking and dodging. You know, like you outside of the, you know, like people get hurt and all that kind of stuff. But you see like Valentina fight. You saw Amanda Nunes fight when she was active. Like she fought basically the next woman up. You saw that with the Rousey.
Yeah, he forces them. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I think we've seen in the last 2 years is since that the money's gone to Saudi and we've had this Riyadh season. I remember the first time we saw Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren sitting next to each other. I was like, oh my God, they're in the same room. They hate each other. They're going to kill each other. And if we've been really, I say we've been spoiled. We haven't because we've had it we've had a bad 10 years for boxing fans. But
Oh yeah.
we finally seeing now, stable, quite stable, best of the best, no more ducking, best on best, and we're seeing it. And we've had a few trilogies and stuff, haven't we, in the last 5 years? So, yeah, you can't complain. It's been absolutely excellent. But you're 100% right. It's not the same as UFC for sure. It's not as straightforward as that. I'm very loose lips. I like to throw the word corruption out there. Corrupt. Come on, we can say that. We've got no sponsors to worry about.
Nah, there's a lot of politicking. I think is a better term than corruption.
Sorry, yeah, politics. We'll rewind that. We'll say there's a lot of political
maneuverings happening, around boxing and the organizations, the managers, the boxers themselves. But yeah, I think this is a great starting point. Like I think there's some minor things gameplay wise I would adjust. Like I would love for the presentation of the entrances to be a lot better. I would love for the hitboxes to be a little more accurate, and maybe tone down some of the one punch knockout abilities a little bit, because I'm like, you could be just on someone winning the scorecard, and they get that one punch that feels a little unrealistic sometimes depending on who the fighter is. If it's like Tyson, I get it, but if it's like someone who probably has like C tier power, I would be it gets me a little bit, like they're able to
I know what you mean. I've had every time I start the fight, I always try to box. And then after 2-3 rounds, I get bored. And then I'm like, right, how fast can I knock him out? And I'm holding down the triggers, doing power punches, holding my stamina and trying to lure him in. But I've had it a few times. I know my stats are high because I've trained them well, and I've sort of worked out the mechanics of it and what attributes I need and what I don't need that fit my fighting style. But I've had it where literally I've thrown 1 or 2 punches. They're all over me. My stamina's low. I'm on the back foot, and then I've literally rolled under a hook, hit them with a little uppercut, and it's absolutely sparked them, dropped them out. And I'm like, oh, what are these hands that God has given me? I just feel so powerful. The one thing I find really silly, the only thing I would like to change, and they could update this, I'm surprised someone hasn't said to them yet, is the 3 knockdown rule applies. So if you get knocked down 3 times within a round, and the only reason why I say, it's handy for speed running career mode, because I sometimes blow people away within a couple of rounds. But what I would say is there is a clever mechanic where you can take a knee to stop, take a standing 8 count to stop you taking too much damage. And the computer will do this even when it's been knocked down twice. So they'll take a knee, the ref's counting, and I'm thinking, well, why is the ref counting? Because the fight's over. It's 3 knockdowns. It's a knockdown. His gloves have touched the floor. So then as soon as the countdown finishes and the commentators are going, yep, he's saving himself, he's taking a knee, take a breather, then he can go again. And then it's over. So that's the only thing that I think I would change straight away. That was a bit silly.
Yeah, the AI, I think the AI thought process is a little, like, the CPU is a little like dumb in a lot of spots. Like, I feel like they don't often stick to strategies as well either. I would love for that to be implemented a little bit more so, but I think this is a good game. I think I want more from it, but that means I have an appetite for it. Like, it did enough to where I'm like, I liked this game enough to where, like yourself, I put in a lot of hours into it, and I have an appetite for more, and I have an appetite for better as well. So I'm like, they got me. I think this is what you want out of a first entry. I'm like, especially with a new franchise, a new team, a new starting block. I know they were doing crowdsourcing and crowdfunding for a little bit, but and then I think they finally got published, got a publisher. But like, for the most part, this is what you want out of a first game. You want to hook people, for better or for worse. Like, if you get them in the door, they're more likely to come into it again for part 2, as long as the game is good. So I'm like, what else you been playing though? You've been playing Pokemon, you've been playing Undisputed.
Yeah, no, that is literally it. It's why we're on Undisputed, in case there is people that have been playing the game and they're enjoying it. I've got one tip which I can share with you, which really helped me massively. If you're struggling to finish your opponents off, anyone that's listening to this, basically when you rock them, it does like a graphic and there's a sound. You can tell, like, the earring. It's like when your eardrums go, or if you get clocked in a fight, it all sort of, the atmosphere changes. So You can tell when you rock your opponent. When you rock your opponent, he'll go into his guard position. He starts walking backwards, and if he's faster than you, you'll never catch him up. And you get about 5-10 seconds, and it wears off. And then obviously they're not vulnerable; they're hard to knock out. So when you spark an opponent, if you press up on the D-pad, it basically activates this mode where it's not good defensively, so you want to change it back. As soon as you do it, your hands drop down. And it's kind of like, I don't know what the mode's actually called, you have to look at the configuration, but it makes your speed closing the gap a lot more increased. You'll get like 30% quicker, so you can shut down your opponent. And I find as soon as I've rocked an opponent, I'll hit up on the D-pad, and I can close them down, and I can keep them within reach. I don't know if you found that, Seb, but that's really handy.
It's kind of like switching stances.
Yeah, it's not quite swapping from Southpaw to Orthodox.
No.
I've done that by accident, but yeah, kind of whatever your stance is, whether it's a Philly cell or whatnot, you'll just find that you'll drop your hands, your guard goes down, which puts you at risk. However, you'll move quicker, and it's very handy, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to ask you this, based on all you've been playing this probably on PS5, I imagine, right?
Yeah, PS5, even on the Portal. I've been playing it a lot on the Portal.
Wow.
Yeah, playing it on there. There was one other game I've been playing, Until Dawn, but I've not played it for a fair few days. I'm near the end of it,
Okay.
Really enjoying that.
Have you been playing that by yourself, or you've been? I think Until Dawn is the one where it has like a multiplayer component as well, right?
I didn't know there was multiplayer on there. No, it's
I
like
might
real,
be confusing it with their other studio
it might
game.
be. It's basically an FMV game, but it's not a full FMV game. So it's like real-time based decisions. So it's like you're in a movie. You control third-person view. You play different characters, and then your decisions have a long-lasting effect. There's different multiple endings, and it shapes the game. But there's a lot of cutscenes, so it's a bit like you're in a film. They did the Quarry and a couple of other games as well, I believe. The studio.
Okay.
But yeah, really, really good game. I know RGT's completed it. He loved it. I know me and George talked about it in a previous show, and I basically said previously I'm kind of done with it because basically it's about a killer that's on the loose. I found out what isn't the killer, or whether it's what's in the woods or what isn't in the woods. So once she reveals that big twist, I kind of felt like, well, what's the point? And he told me to stick with it. So I take it I'm not quite at the end and something else will happen. So that was exciting. But I've not played it, for a fair old few days. But yeah, Undisputed, Until Dawn were the last modern games I've played, and then a lot of Pokemon on the Game Boy is what I've been hitting. So what I need to know, and what the people need to know, is Triple X, the indie king. What have you been playing?
First of all, I think I was thinking of another Supermassive game, maybe one of the Dark Picture games, because I know they do like the other horror games as well. But like, I've been playing quite a bit of Metaphor ReFantasio. We talked about this I think last time I was on. A Persona-like game by Atlas, JRPG turn-based. Yeah,
That's the big one. Was that the one that got like 10 out of 10s and stuff? Was it that one, Seb?
Yeah. It's very high on a. It's good. I am rounding the corner, about to come home and about to roll credits on it. I think I put in like
how many hours?
It's in the 70s for sure.
Oh, is that? Oh, I'm quite surprised. That's quite good for a Atlas game, I believe.
Yeah. They normally could get up to around like 80, 90, 120, but I love the game. I do think it's overstaying its welcome towards the back end. It's almost like a movie that you really love, but like, man, if they would have shaved off this 30 minutes, this would have been probably like perfect.
RPGs all the time, and I feel like they do it in games they don't need to. I remember Luigi's Mansion. I think it was the third one, and it was just like it's like a 20-25 hour mode to complete. But it didn't need to be. But it seems like developers think, oh, it's only 10 hours. We better make it longer. But you get you're at the end game, and then it makes you go all the way back through the levels, everything's already done. I hate it when they do that. We've got other games to play. I don't know why. Like you said, you've been playing it 70 hours, and you're a good gamer. So if I played that, we're talking 90 plus hours. Like, yeah. Come on, give us a break. Shave some off, baby.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where I'm like, story-wise, I feel like they had a couple of plot points to where like you said, they kind of padded the game out a little bit. Like, oh, we added this twist and turn, so this adds another like mini boss and mini dungeon that you didn't necessarily need to have. You could have because like it all comes back to the same objective that you originally had in the first place. So it's a little bit of fluff for just the
Oh,
fact of
mate.
extra padding, but like it's a
More
still
padding
like
than a running back sounds outrageous. Sounds like they got pillows duct taped to cushions, duct taped to mattresses. Too much padding.
yeah, it's what yeah, it did for sure. It had that egregious error, but like for the most part, I love the game. I think it's fantastic. I think the gameplay, the art style, the music, the actual emotions of the characters, the voice acting, I think all of that is top notch. It's just there's a couple of little things that keep it from hitting that 10 out of 10 range for me personally. And plus I'm a hard if you ever go to the single player XP website, I'm a hard reviewer. So yeah, this is one I would have. It leans close to a 10, but I'm probably going to give it a 9 overall. But like, I think,
Wow, that is awesome, Seb. That's cool to hear. I'm
yeah,
definitely going to play that. If you're,
yeah,
like you said, you're a hard reviewer, and this is good. Yeah, I'm going to check that out, mate. 100%. I mean, I knew it was good. Obviously, hearing from credible sources, but when you hear it from someone you know, it hits a lot harder. So I'm going to have to check that out for sure.
if you're an anime person, like if you like that anime style of like storytelling, this might be more for you. If you're not, then this might not like be a game that's going to interest you story wise. I don't. I I think maybe like if you ever tried a Persona game and you thought, oh well, Persona's not really my jam. This is a more streamlined version of what Persona is, but still, I don't think it does enough to change your mind on. I didn't necessarily like Persona games. I'm gonna magically like these games, but yeah, I've been playing
Well,
that. Oh, what were you saying?
sorry, Seb. Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, I know you're a big anime fan, so we talked about it previously.
Yeah.
So is that what drew you into this? Was it if it wasn't like the animation style or art wasn't the way it was? Do you think you might have given it a miss? Do you think that's what the main thing that drew you in for this one?
No, no. I am a Persona guy as well. Like I like Persona 3, love Persona 5. So I'm like anything from that team that is a mainline game as opposed to like one of the side games that they do. Mini like just they throw out a whole lot of like just minor spin-offs in games and such like that. So I'm like, I'm not interested in the minor spin-offs, but since this was a mainline Atlas game from the mainline team that does the Persona games, I was like, that's what got me interested. I think the anime thing is just icing on the cake for my personal interest.
Oh, that's cool.
It's part of the Venn diagram that I happen to like both the anime style of storytelling and the Atlas style of gameplay. So it's just one of those things to where you find a game and you're like, oh, that's going to be like a perfect fit like type of game for you. But besides that, I've been playing Call of Duty's campaign, like Black Ops
Oh,
6.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the first campaign probably in a decade that I really just devoured and really liked. I do think it has some I finished the campaign yesterday. It has some pacing issues as well to where I feel like it kind of overstays its welcome by an hour or maybe an hour and a half because it is a short campaign.